But the real reason you all are here, and the reason that this episode has been so highly anticipated, at least for me, is because Michigan is in some hot water right now. They have the entire college football world on their toes, asking a ton of questions. And I know Jackson's. I know he's ready. I know he's ready to get going. I'm just gonna lay out the situation from what people have been saying, and then I'll let him go. So I want to get the date right. So I texted. I was actually the one who had to break him the news.
Mm-hmm. It was immediately right after a recording that I had done, and I saw a text from you. I'm not going to turn the camera to me yet because I want to save the surprise. But
Thursday, October 19th at 1:30 p.m.
Yep.
Developing story.
Day after a Bloomington Buddies recording.
Day after. Big Ten confirms that Michigan's football program is being investigated by the NCAA amid allegations of sign stealing. So, what ended up coming out is that if you aren't familiar with the name Connor Stalions, you will be by the end of this.
Yep.
He essentially is the guy at the middle of all this. He has been reported to have been buying tickets to various. Originally, he was buying tickets to a bunch of Big Ten games like Michigan State, Ohio State. I don't know if he had to scout Indiana because they're so bad. But he was buying tickets to all these Big Ten games and basically filming their sidelines and stealing signs and stealing signals, which actually used to be legal for the NCAA. You used to be able to go scout teams' games, but schools like Ball State and Eastern Michigan, and they don't have the funding to just send people to every single game for every single opponent they're going to play. So that's no longer allowed. But this guy was basically buying up tickets and sending people through his public Venmo transactions. There's Venmo transactions that say Ohio State game, Penn State. There's Venmo transactions that say all this stuff. So immediately it was just that he was doing this for the Big Ten. And then it came out that he was out here buying tickets to the Georgia-Ohio State college football playoff game. And it's on people. This is on such a huge scale that people have just been getting incredibly frustrated, and people feel, I guess, robbed and cheated, because it's very similar to what the Astros were doing. Because you're allowed to pick up sides from a catcher, you're allowed, but you can't use a camera planted in the outfield to do so. And that is essentially what Michigan has been reported to have been doing. So I have some more stuff I will eventually say, but I am going to turn it over to Jackson.
Hashtag free Harbaugh.
This fucking guy.
Free Harbaugh. Okay. When it comes to this situation, the playing field is so much differently
Than baseball?
And here's why. Because, like you said, the tactics that Michigan has been using used to be legal. Granted, they're not. And if the evidence comes forward that they did this, they need to be punished. Yes, I'll still be a Michigan fan in 2 years' time whenever the NCAA finally decides to actually come up with a punishment and it actually comes to a conclusion of their investigation. But if you look at every single sports analyst in this game, talk to Coach Prime, talk to a bunch of the other Big Ten coaches who Michigan has already beaten, they're like, yeah, everyone steals signs. Everyone steals signs in this game. It is a very normal thing to do. It is part of the game. It is what you do in this game. You have to steal signs. You have to try and get the advantage over the other team. Now, granted, the way that Michigan has done this is a heightened level. It is a heightened level. But what I'm saying is the fact that every single coach, every single person, if you talk to them in the Big Ten, Minnesota's coach talked to them and he was like, do you feel cheated or robbed right now? He's like, not really. Like, this is like, my whole arguments for today are not going to be whether Michigan did it or not, because the evidence is very damning that this guy did it. Now, you have to also know, this guy is a very low level, Connor Stalions is a very low level staff member for the Michigan team. So I think it will go a little bit higher than Connor Stalions. I don't think this was just a lone thing that he did, but I really don't think it goes as high to the point of like Jim Harbaugh telling Connor Stalions, you're going to go to every single one of these games, and you're going to film their sidelines, and you're going to report back to me. Like, that just seems way too far. Like, that's where I'll go as a Michigan fan. That seems way too far ahead. But the thing is that even if Harbaugh didn't do anything wrong, even if Harbaugh had no idea what was going on here, the NCAA is still gonna suspend him. They're still gonna, they're gonna punish him because it's his team. Because it's his team. So it just, this whole story has exploded into something huge as it's the next Astros sign stealing scandal. But the thing about the Astros sign stealing scandal is that nobody found out until after they had won the championship.
Okay.
We know that they had been cheating the entire season. The best part about this right now, and I texted you this.
He did.
And it's been proven already. Michigan has a bye week this week, so nobody's going to be able to see it this weekend. But it's going to be so sweet when Michigan finally just accepts the role of the bad guy that everyone is painting them out to be. I want to show you a picture right now. I'm going to find it on my phone real quick.
God.
Ryan Day wants to say that it's Ohio State against the world. He wants to say it's Ohio State against the world. Look at that picture right there. Look at that picture right there.
Wait,
that is the pick for every single sports analyst on College Game Day.
For when they played Penn State.
When they played Penn State. And, of course, C.J. Stroud is there, so obviously he's going to pick Ohio State. But every single person on that panel was like, yeah, Ohio State's winning this thing. Of course Ohio State's winning this thing. They're Ohio State. Why wouldn't they win this thing? They're at home. They're Ohio State. Why wouldn't they win this thing? I don't want to hear jack shit anymore about Ryan Day being like, oh, it's Ohio State against the world. It's Ohio State against the world. If you go into the YouTube comment section of any video about this sign stealing scandal, every single person is, fuck Michigan, get them out of here, strip their titles, strip their Big Ten titles, do whatever you need to do. It's like, no, we're still the much better team. Everybody is undervaluing Michigan at this point, and everyone's like, yeah, it's really easy to win when you know everyone's signs and you know what play's coming next. Okay. Look at that Michigan State game this past weekend. Granted, Michigan State, not a great team.
That's an awful team.
Not a great team.
That's an awful team.
Not a great team. But if you want to accuse us of not being shit because we know what sign and what play is coming next, just watch that game. Every single time the quarterback runs to the sideline to his coach, where the coach whispers into his ear what the play is going to be. And then he runs back out. Couldn't have known. Unless we had a microphone inside the quarterback's helmet or something like that, which I'll get to. The absolutely absurd game. Absolutely blew them out of the water. I have another thing that I was going to read, but
right.
Go ahead.
All right, so I'm gonna backtrack.
Go ahead.
Because the first thing that I knew Michigan fans were gonna say is that Connor Stalions is just a rogue staffer doing his own thing.
I don't think he is.
Okay. I knew that there is a Michigan fan website that I found that's trying to say that Connor Stalions is just a rogue staffer. This situation is very similar to a time that seems pretty much ancient when Ole Miss got caught with their hands in the cookie jar, basically shelling out big bucks to a bunch of high-level recruits. And originally it was, oh, it's a lone bag man going rogue, some Ole Miss booster. And then everyone found out that it was super institutionalized and it went all the way to the top for Hugh Freeze. Think about this. People are saying this started in what, like 2021 is when they're saying this whole thing started?
I think so, yeah. Basically, Michigan went from a 4-loss team to losing 1.
Think of the desperation that Jim Harbaugh is in. He hasn't beaten Ohio State ever. He's barely beaten Penn State. He's barely beaten a top 10 team. I'm telling you right now, I think this goes up to the top. I truly think this goes up to the top. Because think about this. Michigan started that year unranked. Nobody thought that they were going to be anything good. And then they roll everyone unexpectedly to the college football playoff. From in those past 2 years, when Michigan has played a team they could have scouted, they went 23-1. Only loss being that game against Michigan State when Kenneth Walker ran for 400 yards. In games where they weren't able to scout their opponent, i.e. being a team that wasn't on their schedule at the start of the year, they are 0-2. And also, one thing that is I think really sweet that came out of this, TCU allegedly knew of Michigan's antics because they were tipped off by suspicious activity from their coaching staff.
Yeah, all right.
And they were using TCU said they were using fake signals against Michigan, and they rolled them for 51 points.
This is some bull. Okay,
I'll tell you right now.
This is where I'm going to sound like a typical Michigan fan. This is some bullshit PR scam that TCU is trying to do to make themselves feel better because they got absolutely stomped in the national championship. They're trying to make themselves sound so holy once again.
TCU doesn't need their pity party. They already beat y'all. And I'm telling you this.
They're like, oh, yeah, but remember when we beat them, we overcame them. We overcame those guys.
What's the one team Michigan would have been scouting more than anyone? Ohio State. And you're telling me that out of nowhere, pretty much, that Michigan team came out of nowhere when they were unranked.
I want you to think about what you're saying.
They come out and beat Ohio State.
I want you to think about what you're saying.
I'm telling you right now.
What's the one team that Michigan would have been scouting?
Okay, you know what I mean. Sitting behind with your little video camera, taping every move Ryan Day does.
I want to mention. This is the biggest thing that I want to mention.
Scouting and sitting by. That's just the term I'm using. That's just a term I'm using. Scouting and sitting behind. Oh my! There's clips. I've seen clips. Now, granted, I don't know the legitimacy of these, but there are clips of Connor Stallions on the sidelines going like this between like every single play against Ohio State, particularly the game last year when they beat him at the shoe. I'm telling you right now. I'll say this right now. This will be the last thing I say. I'll let you go off. Michigan now has possibly the biggest target on their backs college football has ever seen.
Exactly. And
I would be very surpiggyback if they get out of this season with no losses. Very surprised.
And I want to piggyback off of that. You know, we have the biggest target on our back, and you want to know why?
Why?
Because of Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh has never ever been the NCAA's golden boy.
Okay.
You can't deny that.
That's fair, but
has never once been the golden boy for the NCAA.
Gotcha.
So I'm not saying that this is a scam at all by the NCAA. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm just saying if this is not Jim Harbaugh, this story does not blow up as much as it does.
Oh, no.
If this is Minnesota, if this is Iowa, this scandal does not blow up as much because everyone knows the NCAA is making a gigantic deal out of this because it's Jim Harbaugh, because they hate his guts.
No, they're making an example out of Michigan because Michigan has been good the last 2 years. They've been damn near the best team besides Georgia the last 2 years.
Just look at the way that our offense plays. Look at the way our offensive line is. Absolutely demolishing everybody.
Look at the way they know what plays coming. I'll say this right now. Right now. Y'all better beat Ohio State. If y'all don't beat Ohio State, it's going to be bad for Michigan. Because, look, I'm telling you, every single...
And that's why I'm saying it's going to be so fucking sweet. When we steamroll everybody, because Ohio State's not as good as they think they are this year, and you know that. And Penn State proved that they're not as good as they think they are against Ohio State.
Here's the thing, though. Rivalries doesn't matter how good they are. It matters who wants it more. Ohio State is going to come in that game with so much. It's going to be that might be the most anticipated.
Like Michigan isn't, though. Michigan is the most hated team in the country right now.
I got you.
Michigan is the most hated team in the country. Everyone's pointing at them saying that they ain't shit. And that's what I just told you right before we started recording.
I cannot wait till this game, though.
Everyone's painting Michigan as the bad guys in this situation, okay?
Yeah.
I'm ready for us to accept it. I'm ready for
this
it.
This guy needs his like Darth Vader mask or something.
Like, I'm so ready for us to accept the role as the bad guy this year. It's like, all right, I'm ready for JJ and Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards and all those guys to be like, all right, everyone thinks that we're a bunch of cheaters. Let's go out there and prove why we're the best team in the country. Why we're better than Georgia, why we're better than Ohio State, why we're better than Penn State, why we're better than everybody. It's going to be so sweet to watch us win the rest of these games and get to the college football playoff, because we're going to be just accepting the role of the bad guy at that point. It's like, all right, watch us, haters. We're going to become, literally, it's great that it's Michigan, because then they can just channel the energy of the 89-90 Pistons. And you want to know what happened?
The 89-90 Pistons.
You want to know what happened when the bad boy Detroit Pistons finally accepted the role of the bad boys?
What, they beat
They won back-to-back championships.
Yeah.
They won back-to-back championships.
I gotcha. I just thought so every single sign at game day was Harbaugh stole my other side. Harbaugh stole my other side.
They beat the joke into the ground. It was funny the first time. And
it was
old.
funny the first time. I'm telling you right now.
I laughed at that video you sent me. So
I'll tell you right now. If Ohio State beats Michigan, Michigan is not making it back to a Big Ten title for a long time. I'll say that right now. I'll even go this far. This could be the most important Michigan-Ohio State game in the history of Michigan-Ohio State games.
could be.
Because they're both going to most likely be undefeated, unless Penn State has something to say about that. And so it's going to be automatically just a big game, because they're going to be ranked probably 2 and 3 or 1 and 2. But you add this on top of it, it's going to be an absolutely just massive game. But I'm telling you right now, you can't just... The NCAA is going to find something bad. Worse than they've already had. Connor Stallion, not a rogue staffer. And
I don't think he is.
I know you said that. But a lot of Michigan fans are saying that. This goes up to the top, man.
No.
This goes up to the top. I think this goes up to the top. Because Harbaugh was damn near about to lose his job if he didn't beat Ohio State. You're telling me he's not going to pull some shady stuff to do whatever it takes?
I'm saying that... Okay. This is the point. The biggest point that I want to make, okay? This is... If people are so concerned about this, okay, about buying tickets to future opponents' games to try and figure out their signs and things like that, okay. Like, that's far beyond what the rule calls for, okay. Catch up with the times, NCAA. Catch up with the times. It is 2023. Look at the technology that we have right now. Look at the technology that we have inside the studio right here.
So you wanted to change the rule?
No, I'm not saying that. Just literally all you have to do to avoid sign stealing, just put a little earpiece inside the quarterback's ear.
That's basically
all you have to do.
Then
you can ignore all the signs, and you can have the coach with their headset talk to the quarterback like in the NFL
and the MLB. That's what the MLB added that because of the Astros.
Yeah.
They added the pitch-com system.
Literally, so just it's even in high school, like headsets in high school. Headsets in the NFL, college, signs. Makes no sense. And I want to go back to your point that you brought up earlier about why they changed the rule. Because like lower schools like Ball State and things like that couldn't afford to send coaches to other teams. That's the dumbest part about this whole thing is that the NCAA is grouping all of these major programs with all these smaller programs that don't have as much when they're literally just not on the same playing field. It makes no sense to categorize these two completely different programs together. So it's like, okay, you got to separate them. Like, you got to categorize them separately. Like, you can't be comparing the Georgias to the Ball States. Like, it's just such a different playing field.
They play each other.
They played each other.
Georgia played Ball State.
You can't be comparing them because we all know that those are two very different programs. You can't change one rule. Yeah. And, like, literally, go listen to Joel Klatt's episode about this whole situation from this past week.
I haven't gotten a chance to watch that.
I think you released it yesterday. He outlines this whole thing very well. He doesn't come to Michigan's defense, and that's the thing. Is like no one. And when I went back to the argument for like all the college coaches and things like that, none of them ever came to Michigan's defense. None of them ever came to
Kirby Smart kind of did. So what Kirby Smart said was when Georgia crushed Michigan in that semifinal, they asked Kirby Smart, they said, well, did you think that Michigan was stealing signs? He's like, probably not, with how bad we beat them, pretty much, is what he said. So Kirby Smart, I will say, did say that.
Okay, aside from Kirby, because he won the fucking national championship, of course he's going to say that.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, no coach ever came to Michigan's defense, which I'm totally fine with. You know, they were all just saying, like, this is not that big of a deal. Every single team steals signs. And going back to that Joel Klatt episode, he even brought up, he's like, yeah, I've had insider people at some other schools tell me, like, they don't give me details, but he's like, yes, this school steals signs, this school cheats a lot.
And that was similar to what happened with Ole Miss, because I think this situation is very similar to what happened with Ole Miss. They were like, well, yeah, every school, because this is back before NIL, before you could pay people. They were like, well, every school pays people, every school does this. But no one did it basically as obvious as Ole Miss did. Like, I'm sure there's another school out there that's been doing this, but the way Michigan tried to hide this, though, was awful. They basically didn't even try to hide it. Because, like, those, by the way.
Because it's scouting in the NFL.
It's
literally just scouting.
By the way.
It's just what people do.
SEC Shorts, if you're not familiar, Jackson wasn't familiar with them until I sent him the video they did.
It was a really funny video,
SEC
I gotta
Shorts
say.
Never misses. They never miss. But they did a little comedy skit about Michigan, and it was like they were sending two people to the Ohio State Penn State game, and this guy's like, I got my Ohio State shirt, I got a little camera embedded in the O in the hat. The guy's like, no, you're gonna wear your public Michigan hat. We're gonna transfer the tickets
and give you a gigantic camera
on your public Venmo. They give him a TV camera that's like on his whole shoulder.
I laughed my ass off when you sent me that. I sent that to my dad and my brothers. We were all dying when we watched that video. And here's the thing: if this were no big deal, if this were a much bigger deal than it really is, then we'd be like, that's not funny.
That's not funny.
That's not funny at all. This is stupid. We didn't do anything. But because I know this whole thing is not a big deal, that's fucking funny. It's funny.
I think you're understating how much of a big deal this is.
I really don't think.
They still have stuff to find.
Literally, look at every single coach. Just watch every single Big Ten coach.
Sounds like an Astros fan. Look at every team then.
No,
That's
no.
That's
not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying go to every single coach's press conference talking about the situation, and every single one of them is saying, like, yeah, every single team steals signs. This is not that big of a deal. If they don't think it's a big deal, then why does every single person in the country think that this is a big deal?
It's because people are mad that they got beat, which is fair.
It's because people are mad they got beat.
I guess.
Yeah.
I guess that's a fair point. There is still stuff to come out about this. We will revisit this conversation, but that is all that I think we can beat it into the ground.
One more thing real quick. I just want to read this. This is from an article. Without Stallion's alleged advanced scouting, surely Michigan wouldn't have escaped rival Michigan State 49-0. It would have been more like 49-3. Instead of throwing for 4 touchdowns, J.J. McCarthy might have thrown for 3 and rushed for 1. And certainly there's no chance the Spartans would have held to just 190 yards of offense. We have every confidence in that in an honestly played contest, Michigan State gets at least 200 yards of offense in a garbage time scramble on 4th and 26.
All right, I think people are kind of so Michigan State is I think the main Michigan State and Ohio State, but I think more so Michigan State Michigan State's doing the majority of the complaining. Just because that team's bad.
And
that
Ohio State because, of course, Ryan Day is allowed to cast stones, but he's not allowed to receive stones from an 86-year-old man saying that they're not tough when they aren't.
Okay, Ohio State because they're Ohio State. Michigan State because that team is bad, and that's all they can hang their hat on. By the way, that was some dirt. I don't know if anyone watched the Michigan State game. I watched a little bit of it.
I did.
I know, Jackson did. Michigan State, some of the dirtiest football I have ever seen. Holy cow. They were hitting late. They were hitting high.
Oh, yeah.
That was some of the dirtiest play that I've ever seen.
They're trying to act tough when they know that they're garbage.
From a pitifully bad Michigan State team. Because I honestly think IU could be Michigan State. Michigan State is awful.
All right, so sorry to drag that out for so long, but I had to get that off my chest. I've been trying to build up all my arguments all week.